This episode is sponsored by Kiddom. Liz, where were you in 2007, 2008?
We had actually just moved from Philadelphia to Kent, Connecticut, and I was just starting my teaching career at Marvelwood.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Do you want to know where I was? I ask
Sure.
you a lot of questions. Do you feel like you ask me enough questions?
I probably don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Where were you in 2007, 2008?
I'm so glad you asked that, Liz. I was working with a national network of schools called Diploma Plus.
And what was that?
DP was actually really neat. DiplomaPlus.net was a tool that I was helping build with a guy named Ron Miles. They serve what we now call opportunity youth. So back in the day, this would be overaged and undercredited. So these are kids that are like 18, 19 years old, super smart, right? Just like life circumstances got in the way. So they were able to be in this environment where they could catch up on credits and move into their post-secondary pathway.
Oh, flexible hours and all those things that are so important for kids that are in these different circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. So,
awesome.
In New York, there was a whole network of these schools. They called them transfer schools. They're still around. Yeah. And I was working in 2008 at a place called Innovation Diploma Plus, as well as a bunch of other of the Diploma Plus high schools in the city. And totally unbeknownst to me, there was a really interesting guy named Abbas Manji who was a teacher there, right, at Innovation Diploma Plus. And he noted that there weren't lots of high quality instructional materials available. And there's all this digital stuff out there, but it wasn't being well coalesced, especially for a group of kids that needed some scaffolded supports. And so he started building this kind of early version of bringing and curating high quality instructional material together that would be relevant and engaging for his kids, right? In the meantime, I was building a platform to help the Diploma Plus schools assess students. So it was a competency-based assessment and portfolio system. So kids could demonstrate mastery against competencies and then kind of accelerate in their credit recovery.
Makes sense.
Yeah, right? It's kind of neat. So years and years and years later, like now.
Almost 20.
Yeah. I meet Abbas through a group of folks at this really interesting company called Kiddom. And they take high-quality instructional, HQIM. You come across that?
Quality instructional materials.
Oh my God, you do have a doctorate for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, so they take all these things from EL education and illustrative math, which you're very familiar with, I believe, right?
Yeah, pretty familiar.
You're a fan of that program?
I am.
Yeah.
I am, yeah.
So they wrap some really cool tech around it and now some really cool AI around it. And we're going to talk more about that. But I kind of go on here for just a second because the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing has always been an underwriting sponsor, right? They've been with us for several months and we're incredibly grateful. But we haven't had the kind of sponsor yet where you and I are putting our names behind an organization. And we don't do that lightly. We take a lot of pride in our editorial independence. And so we spent time. I spent an hour or over an hour with this really neat guy named Dr. Mike Flanagan. Jackie Cheney is their regional school partner here in our corner of the world. I met with Stephanie Butler, who is their head of AI, because I really wanted to understand, you and I have been very critical of large language models that are used indiscriminately for assessment and grading, right? Because stuff
absolutely.
goes what?
Biased, off the rails.
Right. And so I knew that these guys were using AI in assessment. I really wanted to understand, what does it look like? How do you do it? How do you make sure that all those things you just said, bias, the probabilistic nature where it's unpredictable, weren't in play. And I feel really, really satisfied that they're exhibiting best practices. So we'll talk more, but I just wanted to say to the ChatEDU audience that we're really excited to have them. ChatEDU is supported by Kiddom, the AI-enhanced digital learning platform that brings together high-quality curriculum like illustrative mathematics, EL education, OpenSciEd, Unlock Phonics, and more, providing instructional tools and insightful reporting, all designed to help teachers teach. With an AI based on actual teaching moments, Kiddom AI gives teachers full control, empowering them to save time, better use curriculum, and improve student outcomes. Learn more at kiddom.co. That's kiddom.co. And be sure to download Kiddom's excellent white paper on AI and assessment designed specifically for the ChatEDU audience. You can find them at go.kiddom.co/ChatEDU.
Welcome aboard, Kiddom. We're so thrilled to have you.
Yeah, they are, by the way. This episode is launching on May 2nd, which will be this coming Friday, and they will also be the sponsor of our amazing twice-a-year conference. Actually going to be 5 times a year next year, but 2 big ones and then 3 small ones.
So as people are listening to this, they may have just attended the conference. They may even be on their way driving to the conference right now.
I know from the emails that I get on Friday mornings that several are.
Yes.
So good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Liz, It's wacky out there.
It is wild.
I mean, in all sorts of ways. But with respect to AI, there's been this like a whole slate of very fascinating stories about AI and authenticity. One of my favorite is Axios, that we read a lot, put out a piece on AI slop. And it was sort of about, we've talked about this a bit, the Studio Ghibli stuff, the Simpsons, the action figure craze. You know what I'm talking about here?
Yes, I have seen that on lots of friends' Facebook pages where they must give AI a prompt and it creates like an action figure with accessories.
Yeah. And so I obviously could not stop myself, Liz, from making an action figure of Dr. Elizabeth Rade.
Well, you didn't do it for yourself. You did it for me.
That's kind of how our relationship works.
Yeah, I know.
As we've established.
I see.
So, Andre, I will drop this into our feed so you can throw it into the video feed for folks on Spotify and YouTube and possibly TikTok. But Liz, what do you think?
Oh my goodness. It's really so accurate. I look a little...
For the audio folks, give us a quick, your torso is like, your body proportion is a little bit weird there.
Yeah, my body proportions are a little weird, but you can tell it's me if you know me.
For people who insist on listening on Apple, describe for them.
Well, so there's me as the doll, and then next to it are all these accessories.
Excuse me, hang on. Doll? You're not a doll.
Oh, sorry, I'm an action figure.
You're an action figure.
Yes, that is much cooler than being a doll.
Yes.
It's like Barbie versus G.I. Joe.
You're just a creepy doll. Go ahead.
So, that's the second time we've had to sing that song in this podcast.
Well, funny though, Andre didn't put it in. I think he knew it was going to violate something, but that is Jonathan Colton's Creepy Doll. I really encourage you to check it out. This episode's going to be like 9 hours long. I can already feel it.
That's all right.
All right, describe for us.
Okay, so I'm an action figure, but then on the right are all of my accessories. So there is a crocheted granny square. That is what that crocheted object is called. There's 2 skeins of yarn, there's crochet hooks and cable needles, and then my favorite part is that there is a bathing suit with rhinestones on it.
Totally.
And a whole bunch of rhinestones underneath that you could tell would be what I would use to create this bathing suit. Then there is a phone that says vibe coding and a second phone down there because clearly I am on my phone a lot.
Do you want to sing because you're a rhinestone cowgirl?
No, I don't want to sing anything on a podcast.
Okay. All right. So I particularly love this. I think it's really great. I would not call this AI slop, right? But it was really interesting. Like, what is slop? This is the hardest thing in the entire field of AI is deciding like where is the line. So Phil Libin in the Axios piece, Phil is the former CEO of a really great little application called Evernote that some people might, I think it's still around. So Phil Libin said, it comes down to whether the human directing the AI is looking to make something better or make it cheaper. So when AI is used to produce mediocre things with less effort, then I'd have to say it's slop.
But on the other hand, Libin said, when it's used to make something better than it could have been made without AI, it's a positive augmentation.
Now, I don't know what you're thinking. I'm thinking I saw something last week with the use of AI that falls into Libin's second category.
Yeah, better than it could have been made without AI?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Because babies can't talk.
And neither can dogs.
Okay. We won't play this whole thing. And I have a sense that maybe, a quarter of the ChatEDU audience has seen or heard this. Again, this would be one of the benefits of checking us out on Spotify or YouTube. But let me just open this up. This is something that went all over the internet. And I am saying this is not slop. This is adding value. So we're just going to play the little quick intro here.
Welcome to the Talking Baby podcast. On today's episode, we'll be talking to the weird-looking person who lives at my house. Thanks for being here, weird-looking person.
Well, thanks for having me. As you know, you are my third favorite person in the world, third behind the 2 larger people that we also live with. They're both awesome. So cool. You're fine. And right now those 2 larger people are both busy and not paying attention to me at all, so I'm happy to chat with you.
So to kick things off, I want to ask you a question, and I apologize in advance if it's naive or ignorant. Look, I'm a baby. I don't really know stuff yet, so just keep that in mind. So my question is this. What are you?
Yeah, so for the audio listener, right, that just sounded fun all by itself. But for the video listener, describe the baby, if you would.
Okay, so there's this baby that is podcasting. He's got the headphones on, the same kind of mics we have, and has all this like facial expression, is moving, looks just like a podcaster.
And the lip syncing is like perfect.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
All right. So that is not, in my mind, that is not AI slop, Dr. Addy. This is like, they used AI to make, I had so much fun watching that and my family, and just, it's been a hoot.
Our boss sent it to us, or you sent it to him. And yeah, there was some comments that, taken out of context, I was like, I hadn't watched the video yet and saw some of Jonathan's comments, and I was like, that's interesting.
I believe that had to do with the defecating in the diaper.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's keep our E rating. We'll stop right there. All right, but Liz, it's getting tough out there in the world of AI authenticity, right? Like, there's what's happening on Instagram.
Yeah, there's these things called AI influencers. So one example is Lil Michaela, who has 2.5 million Instagram followers, and Lou Do Magalu, who has 7.1 million followers. So this is a pretty big shift. So these are virtual personalities, and they're created and managed by brands to promote products, model clothing, engage with followers in real time. Brands like Prada, Chanel, Coach have already run campaigns with these types of AI influencers, leveraging their consistency, availability, the ability to target hyper-specific demographics. They are AI. They're not real. They're not real people.
Did you check them out at all, by the way?
I did. And, Matt, we've been accused several times, not accused, but have been questioned on our own TikToks if we are AI. And we're not. People have said on our, maybe they're trolling us, maybe they really are questioning, but the AI is getting so good that you do almost start questioning whether real humans are real.
Right. So Lil Michaela, for instance, has put out 1,375 posts, has 2.4 million followers, as you said, I think up from when we actually, maybe the Axios story bumped it up. But yeah, and it's just wild, right? You look at it and you go, oh, it's just like an Instagram account, but it's not a real person.
Right.
All right, so speaking of fake things, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but you never were in possession of a fake ID, correct?
You know me way too well. Of course, I was not in possession of a fake ID. I would have been terrified. Yeah, no. But many of my friends were.
Yeah.
So I've seen them. Yeah, most of my friends were.
I know of this fake ID thing.
Most of my friends were. I just was never, no, not me.
And knowing me well, do you think I was in possession of a fake ID? I'll just ask questions for you about myself.
Sure. I'm going to go with yes, probably even before college.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. With my brother's Bowdoin College ID, by the way.
Oh, see, many of my friends who had older siblings of the same gender, really scored because they weren't necessarily fake IDs. They were real IDs, just not of that person.
Right. But a college ID is not a thing anymore that would get anybody anywhere. So speaking of fake IDs or fake identification, I saw this really interesting story about this whole authenticity thing in the world of education. This is from the Daily News, maybe, Liz, NOUS. It's Justin Weinberg from the Voice of San Diego. And essentially, criminals. Do you remember you did a TikTok that has 500,000 views right now about someone being a fake student?
Yes.
Yeah.
It went viral, which was so fun. But it was essentially about an AI bot completing all the work for an entire online class and walking away with a 99% grade.
Right. So that was done for a study. But believe it or not, people are using AI and the internet in nefarious ways.
I'm shocked.
I know. So criminals are now using AI-powered bots to impersonate students and steal financial aid. So they're essentially like enrolling in community colleges as ghost students. They apply, they enroll, they stay in classes long enough to pull down the aid and then steal the money, right? This is a scam that's pulled in over $11 million in California just in 2024.
So they are taking the money because some financial aid goes directly to the school, but I guess other financial aid goes directly to the person so that they have money for living expenses, books, anything like that. So, but these bots are harder to detect by even the new AI advances. They are able to communicate, submit assignments, mimic student behavior very convincingly. And so this pressure is going to the faculty to try to spot and remove fake students before financial aid deadlines. But it's tricky. I mean, imagine booting somebody out of your class who is a real human.
Right.
There are estimates that suggest up to 25% of community college applicants were bots.
This is crazy.
The whole online education thing may really take a hit through all of this AI stuff. And it's I don't know, but it's also so convenient and such a great way to upskill. There's like crises in higher ed.
Yeah, think?
A lot. Yeah.
I mean, look, yeah, I feel for our brethren. We both have, obviously the higher ed institutions. And I saw this is starting to kind of spill over into Europe. But higher ed is under attack politically. I think we can just say that neutrally. It's quite clear. And then you've got this kind of stuff going on. And then just AI's role. I shared with you and Jonathan a story I just read this morning. I can't remember the exact title, but it was about the humanities and AI. It was the most thoughtful thing I've read about AI and higher ed, AI and education, like one of the most top 5 thoughtful things I've read. Maybe we'll talk about it in the podcast, but it does a brilliant not today. It does a brilliant job really summarizing what the bots can do relative to all the things that we valued, especially in higher education.
Yeah.
But it has a very positive outcome. So we'll say no more.
Okay.
All right. One last little story about AI and authenticity was kind of neat, actually. I thought, let's end on a positive note in this very bizarre little opening. So Instagram is using AI to find teens lying about their age and then restricting their accounts, right? And we're not like, Liz and I aren't as parents being like, kids, But this is a problem. Like kids get on Instagram way too early, way too young. Then they're exposed to all sorts of, really toxic and dangerous stuff. So Instagram has this teens thing. They've never done a good job with age gating. So they're just trying to dial this back using AI to detect these accounts, right?
Right. Yeah. So, typically you enroll in Instagram and you have to give your date of birth. And so, but every savvy teen knows to roll back the years.
Would you have lied for that? I get you wouldn't have done the fake ID, but...
Oh, yeah, I probably would have lied for that.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. I'm pretty good, but I would have lied for that.
All right, carry on.
So if you were born in 2015, which would make you 10, you roll it back 5 or 10 years and you're old enough to be on Instagram. But if the AI suspects now that the account belongs to a teen, even with that adult birth date, Instagram will automatically enroll it into a teen account that has stricter protection. So it limits the DMs, which are direct messages. It restricts content. And so it's doing this by looking at users' posts and scanning signals like birthday posts. So if everybody posts on there happy 13th birthday, you're like, interesting, you should be turning 27, but why is everybody wishing you a happy 13th birthday? And also user reports, and there's some other tells, but yeah, the teens can't consistently carry that age thing
I love
through,
it.
So it's great.
I can lie once, but I can't keep it up. Yeah, they've moved 54 million kids globally into these teen accounts. And what's interesting is that you can't get out of teen account jail without a parent's consent. And so the 97% of them have stayed in their teen level accounts because once the parents are engaged, they keep it all pretty snug in there. So, I rarely say this, but good on you, Meta?
Sure.
Question mark? Well done.
In this story, yes.
Yes. I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI and education. In today's episode, AI for All, a national plan to teach America's youth, will unpack a new executive order, or EO as they say inside the Beltway, Liz, on AI literacy.
But first, in the news, we'll discuss a study that takes a critical eye to the lesson plan output from AI systems. And then next, we'll see how higher ed is beginning to explore AI agents. Because as we shared last week, what could go wrong? And then we'll go beneath the surface as we take a look at the latest effort to support AI literacy for students here in the U.S. And of course, we'll wrap up with another Bright Bite.
Love it. All right, Liz, let's get rolling. We're going to move crisply. That was a long open. I will say our engagement rates on Spotify and Apple are higher than they've ever been.
Awesome.
Appreciate that you listen through these longer episodes. So that's really, 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 really great. And by the way, follow, subscribe, all those things. All right, so this is a really interesting piece. I saw this moved around LinkedIn a little bit in the AI and education circles. I don't recall which account I saw it on originally. So this is Pedagogical Bias in AI-Powered Educational Tools by Chen, Chang, Wang, and Liang. And it basically is a study that found that AI lesson plan generators predominantly promote teacher-centered classrooms with limited opportunities for student choice, goal setting, and meaningful dialogue. So this is, when you go to Magic School or ChatGPT and say, make me a lesson, which I think 1 or 2 teachers have done, they basically looked at a whole bunch of those lessons and said, let's bring a lens of kind of a critical eye to the outputs.
Yeah, a lot of these lessons are asking teachers or instruct teachers to assign worksheets or divide students into small groups, offering minimal pathways for student agency where students are choosing what they're doing.
Cool. What was the framework that they used to kind of think through whether it was engaging or?
Yeah, so there were 3 dimensions. Dispositional, where students' self-perception as capable learners and goal setters was important. Motivational, which looked at persistence, values, and resilience. And then positional, and that's agency within social contexts like peer collaboration. So across 90 AI-generated plans, constructs like goal-directed behavior, initiative, and shared authority were largely absent, while interaction and problem solving appeared occasionally.
I love these studies. I could come up with like 10, like help me make a lesson plan ideas. Can you imagine getting to like the 89th one and be like, oh my God, what am I going They probably used AI for some brainstorming.
Yes.
The researchers didn't just kind of critique and judge. They also built a custom AI lesson generator themselves using targeted prompt engineering, which I thought was brilliant. And so when they did this with their generator that was kind of organized around the principles that you just described, they had significantly higher scores around these dispositional, motivational, and positional metrics. They just perform better, both inside Magic School and vanilla ChatGPT. So it's kind of it's unsurprising to us, but the way you prompt the system has a lot to do with the quality of the output.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds us so much of our own work in prompt engineering. But, without intervention, AI tools are going to continue to prioritize efficiency over pedagogical diversity. So they're going to put in outdated educational assumptions into these classrooms without having the prompt guide them to not do that.
Yeah, so if you steer it, which we've been doing quite a bit of, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we are doing a lot on building these prompt libraries for schools and districts. We've built some custom for districts that have this bigger pedagogical vision. So you can find those prompts on skills21.org/prompts. But our prompts that we use are more in depth and more directive to the AI so that we're sure that it's bringing that depth of knowledge, the engagement that we want, and it doesn't typically produce lesson plans that say, and now give your kids a worksheet.
Right. I mean, it's baked into the prompt, like, brainstorm high leverage strategies or design innovative student engagement strategies or, some of the more auditing. And some of these we've done a lot of these we've done in partnership with districts and really encouraging districts to start building these libraries on their own. You and I did a big professional learning day in a town called Cheshire. And you remember we built a few custom prompts with them for that professional learning.
We built a custom complex thinking prompt where the AI is evaluating whether activities foster deep learning attributes like application, explanation, proof, connection, and ranking these enhancements from easiest to most sophisticated. We've done a lot around making prompts give us multiple options and opportunities because sometimes teachers aren't ready to jump to, the most open-ended,
complex,
broad,
might take a bunch of time
task, right? But they do want to go beyond a worksheet. So it's been really cool to see these prompts. And because we've done so much of that work, I haven't seen a lot of the lesson plans that are just like,
Sure.
do a worksheet because I'm not building them on Magic School and I'm using custom prompts that avoid getting the worksheets.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So, and we're always happy to talk about that work and share the way we do it. But I think this article provides a really good frame to think critically about what you're building. And the good news is that this isn't rocket science, right? This is just a little bit of intentional design and the way you do your prompting and how that aligns to your district goals and instructional strategies and targets. You just get so much bang for your buck. So people can really see the role of AI helping them in the work that's important to their school and district.
Great.
All right, Liz, let's keep rolling. We've been talking about agents. Everybody's talking about agents. Liz and I are a little, I don't know about cynical, but we're also taking a critical eye, much like that pedagogy and lesson planning story, a critical eye to the world of agents. But at ASU+GSV, where Liz and I were not at this year, there's a lot of talk about agents, especially in the higher ed realm. And so one of those came up in a publication called the Center for Digital Education. This is from early April, and the title is ASU plus GSV 2025, Uses for Agentic AI in Higher Ed. I wonder if the Merriam-Webster word of the year next year is going to be agentic. The story is by Abby Sauerwein, and it's her coverage of Element 451. This is an agent or a group of agents that were demoed at ASU GSV. And it explains a pitch made by the company where we are entering the era of agentic AI, where AI can reason, act, and adapt and become a teammate rather than just a responsive tool.
Yeah, I mean,
you sound thrilled.
there's definitely urgency for these agents because there are service gaps. Students face 2 to 6 week waits for mental health,
Sure.
multi-hour waits for financial aid answers. And AI can really bridge that gap and meet the rising expectations for efficient but personalized support.
Yep, I think that's fair. And we should add here that this was a story about a booth demo, essentially, right? There's no universities that are currently enrolled in the system, at least that were covered in that piece.
I watched the video and watched what it did. So there's all of these different agents. So this was in the context of a higher ed university, a fake university, where a student was applying or thinking about applying. And so there were all these different agents when the chat box opened. So you, just like if you go to any university right now, down in that bottom right-hand corner, it's like chat with a helper or chat with a agent. Doesn't really say agent. What is it? Just like chat.
Which is interesting because when you look at their demo, right? I mean, an agent would take several actions independently. So a custom chat bot, or what we've always just thought of even before generative AI, it's like, oh, there's a chat bot, right? Hey, let me answer your question. It was this kind of peripheral input in, answer out, input in, answer out. Right. This feels like it's on the edge of that, but it is agentic because it will perhaps send an email off to somebody or do a follow-up or send someone a link and maybe move beyond its deterministic rules-based, responses. You ask me a question, I give you this answer. It is taking reasoning and problem solving and doing multiple steps in theory, right? That's not live in the wild, but that's its design.
Right. So the user could say to the chatbot, hey, I'm interested in this university. I'm interested in applying or visiting. And the chatbot could say, great, our next visit day is May 8th. Do you want me to register you? And it would register the student, or it bumps them to another chat bot that says, great, give me your information here, rather than saying, now you go to this link, and whether or not the user does it is up to the user.
Right.
Here, it just continued the conversation and just switched them to a different bot where they could say, okay, here I'm going to answer all these questions, and now I'm registered. And then the user came back a few days later after visiting, quote unquote, visiting the school and said, great, now I want to apply. And it switched them to an agent that helped them get the application. And then once there was a question about financial aid, it switched them to a bot that could answer the financial aid questions. And also, in this example, it answered financial aid questions to the mother, who was a Spanish speaker. Mm-hmm. And so seamlessly went between two languages and just kept the user engaged instead of saying, oh, that question you, user, need to go and email the financial aid office, where the user might not take that initiative. It automatically just moved you to the next chatbot so that you weren't going, oh, okay, I got to call financial aid. I'll do that later. It kept the process going, which was cool. But I guess the worry is if they do the wrong thing, if they give the wrong information, which is what we saw in last week's example.
And if it really always derives value, right? I think you're right. It's almost like that AI slop story. It's like when it really adds value, great. When it doesn't, and you're just trying to do it cheaper and easier, then maybe not, right? So they used another example. I like the way you described that whole thing where a question about financial aid involved the coach, right? Because the kid's playing sports. So they're like, okay, I'm going to hand you off to Coach Carter. And Coach Carter is its own agent, and Coach Carter can do some stuff. So, I mean, that all could really reduce a ton of friction. And if the agents, and there was some quality control, like no email went out to the parent or the grandmother without, some human in admissions looking at it. But there's also just the human engagement. My stepdaughter, as you know, is a senior. She's a She's kind of making her final decisions about schools. She's a really good soccer player, if I may say so myself. And a lot of this
Unrelated
is about
to your own skills.
I know it's true, stepdaughter. Thanks, Liz. But a lot of the
Just keeping you humble.
a lot of the rich, experience of this whole thing is her talking to the coaches and needing to email and, God forbid, get on the phone with the coach, right? It's just been this huge thing just unto itself. And so, I get it. So I think where there's friction and it eases a problem, like no one wants anyone waiting 8 days for mental health supports. And so if the agent can do something to help facilitate that, they make the point that they're not touching teaching and learning at all.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, I think this is early days. We'll see how it goes. They have a lot of optimism, but it's not in the wild yet. And right now, everybody's basically listen to some previous episode. You'll understand why Liz just made an animal roaring noise. So a lot of these agent systems are being tested in these fake environments, I'm not going to say that phrase, not in real live environments. And one that we noticed, by the way, is Carnegie Mellon University. Just on Business Insider, they featured a little story about them deploying a whole bunch of agents from OpenAI and Google and Meta and Anthropic and to test agents in a real world, trying to run a business. And how'd that go, Liz?
Not great. In fact, they failed spectacularly. They created all these agents to run a business, and they completed less than 25% of the tasks and struggled with things like common sense, social interaction, complex environments. Digging deeper into that article, they would hit a wall and just keep crashing into the wall. I mean, kind of like a Roomba,
Or what was the story we covered with Claude was using Pokemon Go it's just Pokemon, to learn how to reason and problem solve.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
kept hitting the wall.
Yeah. So it was a demonstration, really, that it's just not ready yet to certainly not run a business. But I think there's still a long way to go before these agents are out in the ether.
Yeah, but it's cool watching people test this. I mean,
so cool.
On the other hand, right, Barbara Gilanco, who we love, and she has this wonderful AI advisory boards blog. We'll drop this into the show notes. She put up a little post called Agent Village. Equals an amazing experiment and a noble cause. Rather than trying to run a business or simulate agents in higher ed, they created this thing called, it's at theaidigest.org/village. And so they built this agent village. It's being live streamed, so you can kind of literally watch these agents doing stuff in real time. They're using GPT-4, Claude, and Claude 3.5. And if you've listened to us cover this stuff, we've talked about Claude's computer use and OpenAI's operator. This is part of what lets agents do their work, because they're able to take over the computer and do stuff, which is slightly terrifying unto itself. But in this case, you're watching the agents in real time. They're trying to raise money for charity. So in real time, you can watch them brainstorm, strategize, execute tasks, from setting up fundraising pages to crafting social media campaigns. And the public can interact with the agents, making suggestions and asking questions. So each agent has control of a computer, and they can share documents with each other. I mean, the whole thing is just totally wild. And you know what? It's working.
Yeah, they've raised money for these different organizations. And yeah, if you go to theaidigest.org/village, you can see these agents working. And so there's 4 little squares where you can see Claude 3.7 Sonnet working, and O3, and Gemini 2.5 Pro, and GPT 4.1, where they are, you can see what these different agents are doing. And so I can see the Google Apps menu has opened. I'll click on Drive to access our Google Drive. It's
crazy.
It's really crazy. Totally something that if you are a classroom teacher of high school kids or secondary kids, showing this is pretty cool. If you are teaching computer science or, anything really, just to take a little detour for a couple of minutes with students, it's something.
Yeah, I feel like I just ran this entire emotional wave with you, from slightly cynical on the university story to big deal, no surprise on the Carnegie Mellon story, and now to terrified and delighted at the same time on the AI Agent Village.
Because I don't know, I'm always just so excited when it's helping people and raising money.
Doing something good.
Because as I did some work with Sue Lebomsky, it raises your dopamine and serotonin when you're giving.
That's right. Even if you're rhinestoning bathing suits.
Yeah, that too.
ChatEDU is supported by Kitim. Kitim is offering listeners of the ChatEDU podcast an exclusive guide AI in Grading, Best Practices, Pitfalls to Avoid, and What Educators Need to Know, a topic we certainly discuss quite a bit. This in-depth downloadable explores AI usage for grading, its benefits, but also risks and best practices. Learn to mitigate negative outcomes and simultaneously improve the quality of feedback for your students while saving teachers precious time. You can download it now at go.kiddom.co/ChatEDU. That's go.kiddom.co/ChatEDU. And again, Liz, I spoke to their head of AI, Stephanie Butler, about this at length. I mean, we'll let folks read the white paper, but one of the things I love that they do is that they will use AI in a small model. I don't want to get too technical, but they basically use some strategies to avoid the bias and the probabilistic unknowns of AI in grading. But also, any AI assessment that happens is passed through to the teacher. The teacher has to review it before moving it on. So we use the phrase human in the loop, but this is human in the loop built into the process.
Right.
So if you want to learn more, you can download this at go.kiddom.co. That's go.kiddom.co/ChatEDU. We'd love for you to download that, have a read, and also give us feedback.
Hi, I'm Cameron Audia, executive producer of ChatEDU. Our AI and education micro-credential is full, thanks to many in the ChatEDU audience. If you'd like to join the waitlist for the next cohort, visit skills21.org/AI/micro.
All right, Matt, now it's time to get beneath the surface with this article entitled Trump Executive Order Calls for Artificial Intelligence to be Taught in Schools. This article that we're covering is from EdSurge, but if you looked at anything in the newspaper,
It was everywhere.
Late last week, it was everywhere. So Trump has signed executive orders that are all about artificial intelligence in schools.
Yeah, you bet. So Rebecca Koenig's coverage of President Trump's new EO, executive order, Advancing Artificial Intelligence Education in America Youth. This was signed on April 23rd. And, like all these executive orders and edicts from various political bodies, not just our White House, the devil will be in the details, we'll see. But essentially, it calls for teaching AI literacy, K-12, establishing a White House AI and Education Task Force, which is cross-cabinet effort led by, interestingly, not the Department of Education, but the Office of Science and Technology Policy. They're supporting things that we would really agree quite a bit with, like dual enrollment for high school kids in AI courses in college, AI apprenticeships and building workforce pathways, certainly lots of professional development, professional learning for teachers, and starting a presidential artificial intelligence challenge to spark student creativity, with which we're hoping is kind of like a Beyond the Bot, or here one last time, AI in the Wild. So these are applications of AI where students are solving real-world problems in meaningful ways with AI.
Yeah, I mean, this executive order explicitly pushes for AI education not just to be in standalone computer science courses, and really instead move it towards integrating it across all subject areas, which is a big shift. The presidential challenge could, like you said, take AI beyond the bot and getting kids to build these real-world projects instead of just playing with chatbots.
Yeah. So what's the read from the field? People generally seem enthusiastic, some critical eyes. I mean, it's a tricky administration for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's some optimism from leaders like Peter Just of the Consortium for School Networking. He says AI tools have already been bringing teachers back additional time into their work week by reducing administrative burdens. Cheryl Holcomb McCoy also applauds the focus on teacher training, especially in science, math, and tech. The order does direct the education secretary to identify federal funding mechanisms to make all of this happen, which again is a really important signal. There needs to be money behind all of this. Some superintendents who were trying to just kind of bury their heads in the sand may now feel a lot more ready to jump in because it is coming from a higher order. It fits in perfectly with our new AI student-facing literacy initiative.
Now, I have to say, we've been working on this for some time. So we weren't like, oh, the White House said it, so now we're contributing. But we think we have something helpful and meaningful, just as we thought we did with professional learning, with our micro-credential program for teachers. And so we're really happy to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, we have a student-facing literacy initiative that is designed to get kids understanding AI responsibly, early, deeply, ethically. There's lots of real-world examples in there. It does go beyond just chatbots in a lot of different ways. It's not just theoretical definitions. So we are so excited to roll that out in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to note that this is under some pressure, right? We've covered several stories in the podcast about other efforts to build AI literacy or just make AI a national priority. Clearly, China is an example that lots of folks are talking about, but also the EU, Singapore. We talked about the Estonia story not too long ago. You're going to go try to move to Estonia now, apparently. Is it because of the whole booze running back and forth between Estonia and...
Cheaper between Estonia and Finland.
Yeah, I figured that was the reason.
Yeah.
So, and interesting too, I think just today the Chinese government announced this sort of move for complete AI independence because they're trying to figure out how to build chips that will compete with NVIDIA chips. So there is a global piece here that's important to keep an eye on. And, even states here in the United States like California have passed, I think California passed a AI literacy law for the state almost a year ago. It is interesting that right now there's no standard definition of what we mean by AI literacy, right? Even as we try to put together our student-facing curriculum, we've got to really think through like what's our best thinking around strategy. And we had to do that for teachers too. So it's not uncomfortable to us. We're on the ground very close to schools in all sorts of ways. So some ways these educational service agencies I think are well suited to work with school districts around literacy. But we'll have to see. There have been early efforts from organizations like Evergreen, and also that folks from Teach AI have a site up. I think it's teachai.org/literacy or AI literacy. I'll clarify that and we'll drop it in the show notes. But, I think they will make a really meaningful contribution to helping folks understand what AI literacy looks like. I can see as I look across the table at my dear colleague that she's Googling away or URLing away. Oh, by the way, while you're looking right now, Google just implemented, if you go into the search experiments lab, they have a new thing, which is like AI search. They've already had these AI summaries. Now it's just like full blown AI search. And really all you get is an AI summary. I don't know how the internet's going to work. Like all the people that make all the websites about all the things that we used to link to, and that's how we learn stuff. I mean, I just don't get it, but we'll see. All right, Liz, I believe you have successfully Googled and you've discovered that it is
teachai.org/AI literacy.
Brilliant. And you can sign up there to get updates and the like, but certainly don't be shy to reach out to us at ChatEDU at edadvance.org if you want to talk about our new AI literacy effort. Yeah, so I think this is really interesting. We'll keep a close eye on this, especially. I think Liz and I are both very interested in the presidential challenge, and if that does wind up being kind of a neat application and challenge for students to show the development of AI skills in real-world contexts, we care just a little bit about that. But this is not all sunshine and roses necessarily on the this new executive order. There are a couple causes for some just like critical eye, right?
Yeah, I mean, AI's rise is a bit like the arrival of electricity, Beth Rabbit warned. It's transformative, but capable of sparking fires if rushed. So, yes, the executive order accelerates AI in schools, but it also rolls back some of Biden's AI safety guardrails. So, again, like, yay, AI literacy, but we've got to keep remembering that there are real risks about bias, misinformation, and student data protection. Holcomb McCoy kind of asked a critical question at the end. How will the federal government ensure that every child and every teacher, no matter their location, gets equal access to these promised AI resources? This is the one thing that keeps me up at night. Well, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night, but this is one of the many things that keep me up at night is the danger of deepening inequality or inequity if resources may mainly benefit wealthier, tech-savvy districts and leave other districts behind.
Yep.
So.
Well said, Dr. Rade.
Yeah.
I thought what kept you up at night is whether or not you finished rhinestoning a bathing suit, but apparently
that
not.
Also keeps me up at night. There's a lot of things.
Let's get you some better sleep. Oh, by the way, we have an update. Andre, you do not need breaking news, but I love the breaking news inserts.
That was great.
Yeah. So you have an official name for your Pip Hip Hooray book.
I do have an official title.
Okay, it is?
Learning They'll Love, engage students, meet standards, and spark creativity with personal interest projects.
Fantastic. It's being published by a small organization not a lot of folks have heard of, right?
Yeah, ASCD.
Oh, ASCD. Yeah. It's funny, just down the hall when I was walking to your office, there's like just randomly a little bumper sticker on the table that's just like, I
heart ASCD. Yes.
So good. All right. Fantastic. All right, Liz, I think it's time for a little Bright Bite.
Yes. Let's talk about EcoSolve, using AI to disrupt global wildlife tracking.
Yeah, perfect. Fits right in the Bright Bite theme. As folks will, I think, now know, Bright Bite is once a week. We are covering a story where AI is making a meaningful contribution to society, culture, the environment, energy, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So what's this one about?
Okay, so this is an EU-funded EcoSolve initiative led by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime. And they are using AI through its global monitoring system, GMS, to track illegal wildlife trade across social media and e-commerce platforms in 6 countries. And these countries are Brazil, Colombia, Thailand, Indonesia, Nigeria, and South Africa. So GMS combines AI-powered data scrapers, open source intelligence, and soon AI image recognition to detect and analyze illicit postings.
Yeah, this is really neat. So, and they've had actual impact already. So from May through July of 2024 alone, like a fairly short window, EcoSolve found 477 online ads for 18 protected species, 78% posted on social media. So they're both like, kind of getting into social media. And as you said, also some of the e-commerce platforms. And so by early 2025, GMS has flagged 5,791 illegal posting featuring animals like parrots.
Pangolins.
What is a pangolin? Andre, drop in a picture of a pangolin right here. Liz is looking for one right now.
Oh, it's not cute.
Oh. Well, still drop it in. It still needs to be protect the pangolin, Liz, as well as ivory products, right? It's also uncovered connections between these Amazon fish and smuggling cocaine trafficking in Brazil. These guys do some wild work. It's so funny because we covered early in the episode this piece around how Meta is using, kind of looking at all the social media posts to find these kids, faking their birthdays and not being where they should be in the world of Instagram. And here's just another version of that being used to really try to solve this very important problem.
Well, pangolins are the only animal wholly covered in scales. Sometimes they are called scaly anteaters.
Oh my goodness. Now I don't want to see the picture that Andre's going to drop into the feed, but
now I've gotten to think it's a little cuter. It rolls itself into a little ball if it's being intact and puts all its spikes out there.
Let's protect the pangolins, people.
Yes.
All right. So this is funded through 2026, Liz, right?
Yes. It aims to build sustainable networks for ongoing monitoring and is now actively seeking partnerships with anti-money laundering experts to track the money flows tied to environmental crimes. Matt, talk about AI in the wild.
This is going to become a meme. Maybe your next 500,000 TikTok will be from you doing your little animal thing.
Let's hope.
All right. And finally, Liz, from our partner, once again from Kidim, imagine an AI that you can actually trust. With Kidim, that is finally here. Kidim is the platform delivering curriculum from illustrative mathematics, OpenSciEd, EL Education, Odell Education, Unlock Phonics, and more. Its innovative approach to AI prioritizes teachers, offering tools that not only save time, but also help teachers unleash the full potential of high-quality curriculum to capture more teaching moments and improve student outcomes. All right, Liz, and where can folks learn more?
They can learn more at kiddom.co, that's kiddom.co, and to see the white paper on assessment, it's at go.kiddom.co/ChatEDU.
Awesome. Thanks, folks at Kidim. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to being with you all together today.
Yes.
In Litchfield, Connecticut.
That's right.
All right, Liz, that was a fun episode. Covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Absolutely. And it is really great to have our partners at Kidim along for the ride. So with that said, Dr. Rade, it is time to
roll the credits. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoyed the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, and our micro-credential co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you again for listening to ChatEDU.